Welcome to the first official Base Alpha podcast, Touching Base. Now, before I get into introducing today's guest, I want you guys to do me a massive favor. Hit the like and subscribe. We want to continue bringing podcasts just like this for you guys. Now, today's guest is a British Army veteran, has traveled all over the world, served 15 years in the Army, has completed ultramarathons, Ironman events, Arnold Fitness Games. He has a property portfolio north of £1 million, has two businesses, and also recently taken up DJing. Ash, welcome to the podcast, man. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Wicked. I want to start off with your roots, okay? For people who don't know, I want you to describe where it is that you grew up and what were some of the earliest challenges you remember and how have they shaped you as an individual?
So I grew up in Stoke-on-Trent. For those not from Stoke, there's a small place in Stoke called Stoke, and that's where I grew up. That's where I was born. My mum had me at the young age of 20. Mm-hmm. From there, she'd come from a big family, so the family was about 8 of them, including her siblings. And when she conceived me, I think there was a bit of animosity there with her family and the people around her. She was the youngest of the family. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's not something I've really touched on with my mum because I got the respect there. But I don't want to keep going in asking her stuff because I can see it upsets her. Mm-hmm. But I know that she went through some hard times when I was born, and she ended up she moved out of the family home and there's a small place in Stoke called the West End, where she's a hairdresser in the shop underneath, mm-hmm. and she had me above the hairdressers, so she'd work in the day, and then me and her would live above the hairdressers. Wow. That was when I was born till I was probably about 1 to 2.
Okay.
Which is when she met me stepfather.
Okay. So growing up and obviously come to terms with, your mum seems like she went through a hard time in your mm-hmm. early years. Could you see that in her? Could you see that struggle in her? Were you aware of that at an early age?
Not really, no, because obviously I couldn't really see. I can't remember mm-hmm. that early on. Obviously, you can only remember short clippings of your childhood, probably from like 6 upwards. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I couldn't really see that, but I got the feel from that just because of skin colour.
Yeah.
Because my mum was white, my stepfather's white, my sister's white. Mm-hmm. I was mixed race.
Yeah.
We grew up in Trent Vale on the mm-hmm. council estate. So, there was always questions asked, is that your real dad? Mm. Are you adopted? Blah, blah, blah. Because I was the ugly duckling in essence.
Yeah.
Let's say. So I wasn't actually fitted in to that family. So there was always questions being asked all the way growing up through childhood. And then obviously it was the 90s. Mm-hmm. So this is when you had your national fronts and the rest of it. Racism was quite rife back then. Mm-hmm. But I'm not one of them to point finger, racism this, racism that, because at the end of the day, I just feel like if you're racist now, my outlook on it is you're just stupid, really. It's more like ignorance.
It's ignorance, yeah.
It's ignorance more than anything. But as a young lad growing up in that area, it was quite tough growing up, being around that, because there was not many people of the same skin colour within the area. There's probably like 1 or 2, do you know what I mean? So that definitely played some sort of role in the path I chose going forward.
Mm-hmm. When you did experience racism, how did that shape your mindset as a young man? Did it make you think, why me, or why am I like this? Why am I different? Obviously, you grew up in a predominantly white area. You grew up in a white family. What questions did you have about that? Because I'm sure that wouldn't have been easy to come to terms with and understand at that age as well.
I think I probably felt sort of lost, but I channeled that to a mindset where I've got a point to prove. Mm-hmm. And I always had a point to prove from my early days. Always, I thought, right, if these lot are being fucking wankers, then as I excel and grow, I'm going to show them. And that's always that sort of stuck with me, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I ended up doing what I've done throughout my life, because I've always got a point to prove. And the point to prove is to that kid who I was that, I'm going to make something of myself and outdo all these people, that the racists and all the rest of them. And then that look back and think, how can you compare? How can I now compare to them? Well, they're not even in the same bracket. So
what do you think that kid that you try and prove yourself to, what would he say now if he saw you?
I'd be buzzing. He'd be buzzing. I think if I could look forward from that point when I was a child and see the man I've become today, I think I'd be happy. Like,
nice. So you mentioned your stepdad. You obviously took on his surname, and I want you to explain to me and the people listening, how did that relationship affect you, and how did that mold and shape who you are today and the path that you chose?
Yeah, so I say stepdad, but really he's my dad. He's been that father figure throughout my life. Obviously, biologically, he's not my real dad. And growing up, you know, towards like my teens, I probably hated him. I probably thought this guy's a prick. But looking back now, as a father and as a role model, you have to be that prick sometimes. You have to be the disciplined one. And he was rigid, to be fair. But he had a military background as well. He served 8 years in the Royal Signals. So obviously the stuff he was doing, I just remember small things like, you know, you finish football, get outside the tap and clean your boots, freezing cold winter weather. But, you know, little things like that make you bear this, that and the other. It all stems to who you become later on in life, which is, I've took them on and drill them into my kids. But the reason I took his second name, I actually took his second name when I was 16. In school, everyone called me McGraw and whatnot, but officially, I wasn't McGraw till I was 16. I took his name on. And then I sort of took a right downward spear after school. And I was a little bastard. You know, you getting mixed in with the wrong crowds, but just getting mixed in with the crowds of where we're growing up.
Isn't it? It's the same way.
Yeah, it's the lads.
You know,
everyone's,
you know,
smoking weed, selling weed, bloody blah, blah. And you sort of get mixed in with them things. It's just a way of life where we are. And I could see he really hated that. And we didn't speak at all until I joined the army. And the day I left to join the army, he actually turned up to the train station. But yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the bloke. Looking back now for what he did, you know, raising another man's son, it's that's something in itself. And he did a great job, like, so I've got nothing but respect for the bloke. But the thing is, I haven't actually spoke to him for 10 years now.
Have you not?
No.
Why is that?
He went through, obviously, some drama with my mum. What's between them is between them. And they went their separate ways.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was 10 years ago, so I've not spoken to him for 10 years.
What would you say to him if you were to speak to him today?
I'd probably thank him, to be fair. Thank him for all he's done and what he did for me growing up and how he pushed me in the right direction. But I think, obviously, when my mum and him went through that bit of a dark time, I'm always going to side with my mum because I know what my mum's done for me. My mum's jumped over hurdles from having me when I was born, you know, getting kicked out of the family house, people wanting her to put me up for adoption, wanting me to get rid of me. So I know my mum's like stuck there. And if it weren't for my mum, it wouldn't be as simple as that. So like, even though he's done a lot for me through my childhood, I'm always going to put my mum's side.
Your mum's fought from you from day.
Yeah, day dot.
That's what it sounds like. I want to ask you a question about your biological dad. Have you got questions that are unanswered? Have you got things within yourself that are unresolved because of that?
Part of me has, you know, and I'd love to know like what my family are on that side. My biological dad, you know, how many siblings have I got, where the roots are, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, have I needed him up to this point? Have I become a man without him? Do I need any guidance from him? And the answer is always no. But if you're looking at not him in particular, but, you know, his kids, his family, I don't know, maybe later on in life, it's something I might reach out to do. But at the minute, it's just like, do I really want to open that box? It's like a Pandora's box. I open that and then what falls out of it. Do I need that extra stress or extra load in my life at this point in time?
I mean, by the sounds
Probably
of it,
not.
there's nothing that's really unresolved within yourself.
No. And the main thing, I wouldn't want to upset my mum. Because it's a subject that me and my mum have never really talked about, to be honest. We've had the odd little conversations. We've never spoke about it we've never gone deep in about it. She speaks to my wife about it now and again. And obviously my wife relays to me. But it's something we've never really delved into. And to be honest, I don't think I would because I don't want to upset my mum. So yeah.
Okay. At what age was it that you decided to join the army, and what was the catalyst for that happening?
Right. So when like I said to you, my stepfather was in the military. I remember he left, I think I was about 4 or 5. He served 8 years. So me growing up then, I always had a fascination, going out down to the fields, climbing trees, building dens, crawling through rivers. But I used to then go in his box, rob some of his old army gear. And, the couple of lads off the estate and whatnot, we used to do the same thing, sticks, and that shit obviously doesn't happen these days, but that's how it was back in the day. And I was almost like fixated on being outside, crawling around, just being in the wilderness, just being a young lad like how it was in the 90s. And then I went to, you do the look at life at school, don't you? The 2 weeks look at life.
We never had that, bro.
No?
we didn't look. I didn't look at my life till much later down the line. But yeah,
so we did the look at life, and I think it was in year 10. And it was a Staffordshire regiment, the regiment that I joined, that was actually hosting it. So I was straight away, I'm going on the army for, was it 2 weeks? I don't know if it was 2 weeks we went down or 4 or.
Is that like work experience? Is that what you're on about?
Yeah, basically.
Work experience.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So work experience.
Yeah. Okay, got you.
So we went down there, and I've still got the little certificate they give me at the end. And we went down. It was in Nestcliff camp, and there was all different schools there. And they got us out there. They showed us around the weapon systems. Stayed in these little shitty barracks. They're still the same barracks now. If you go there today, they're still staying in the same barracks. Just a few like stalking lanes at night time, and just little bits, put you on rations and whatnot, take you out to the field, and I fucking loved it. But at that point in time, I was the biggest gobshite you ever know. And that's probably only left me like fucking over the last 5-6 years. But when I was that age,
I disagree.
I was ridiculous. So we went there, and there was a good friend of mine, and he was the same, just a gobshite at school, but we went there together, and we was absolutely just fucking about the old time. And the DS who were on there, they hated us, just press ups constantly, and all the other schools ended up teaming up on us. They were going to fill us in the showers, and I was like, at the end of that, I was like, fucking, I'll get me home. But I loved the experience, and I can still remember the 2 screws that were on it now. And when I left, they were actually in battalion when I got there as well. But I remember them saying, you little cheeky bastard, right? Just thrashing me. But from that point then, I knew that it was set, because I didn't do well in school. I think all my GCSEs were like E's, F's. I didn't get nothing really. I think I got a C in expressive arts, but I was a big dancer.
Yeah.
But so when I left, I sort of knew I was going to join the army. But then I went college. I tried, what did I try to do? I think it was joinery or something. But again, it was all like smoking weed, just fucking about with people, going out uptown and whatnot. There was no real interest until it come to the point where I went home one day, and my mum had actually laid out a big bag of weed, scales, bags on my bed. And she just looked at me and said, you're a fucking disgrace, and walked off. It was at that point then, I went out. I went out again. Went out uptown, drank. I woke up on a friend's sofa, and I thought this, I'm joining the army. I walked up Hanley Careers Office.
From your friend's
house.
After a night out?
Yeah, after a night out, I woke up, walked uptown, and signed up.
It's interesting you say that, because when I talk about change, people think change is like a prolonged thing, but that decision is made like in an instant. That decision to change is made in an instant. But I think where you were in that moment in time, and a lot of guys experience this, things have to get worse before they get better. I think men in general will push up until that breaking point. And I think that breaking point must have been when you come home, you saw that stuff on your bed. Something clicked that night and you thought, fuck this, I'm done.
Definitely.
So those early days in the army, explain to me what they were like.
So when you join the army, I don't know how it is these days because a lot's changed. You got the Army's careers office back in the day, but now it's like everything's online. So you'd go up, you'd sign up, they'd ask you what grades you've got. Obviously I said none. So what are your options? Infantry, which is basically the front line of the army. So there I was straight away. I didn't know anything about the army, like what the different regiments were, battalion, what corps were, this, that, and that. I knew nothing about it. So I was like, yeah, infantry, whatever, just get me in. So I went there. Then you go up Litchfield on like a 2-day selection where you'll do like a 1.5 mile run, pull-ups, press-ups, a few little basic tests, medical tests, hearing tests, blah, blah, blah. So we did that. I got in, and then you give you a start date. Then that's up in Yorkshire, a place called Catterick, and you'll go up to there. And you're there then for 6 months. That's your basic training. When you get there, when you get through them gates, it's fucking go time, and that was a big culture shock. Just getting through them gates, and you got your full screws. At this point, the Iraq War was in like prime. It was prime Iraq War, like so. Every screw that was there had just come back from Iraq. So these are all like fucking tapped anyway.
Yeah, they're revved up.
Yeah, you can just see it. And like Iraq's kicking off. Afghan was just about to kick off as well. So there was a lot going on. So it was very like you're training to go to war. So as soon as you finish this 6 months, you're going straight to war. And a lot of the lads did straight away, like, as a young 18-year-old lad. So yeah, you got hounded. You got absolutely hounded. 6 months of, getting up, 0-500, wash, shave, cleaning the block, cleaning the shitters, out PT, getting thrashed. Then you have getting taught the different weapon systems, going out on the field. Like when you go out on the field, then that's like, so when you say the field, it's like you go out, they'd start you off small, so they'd take you out for like a night of it initially. And the kit you'd carry would just be something light, like just your webbing, and they'd just break you in slowly. And then towards the end, you're carrying like a 20 kg backpack with your weapon system over an 8 mile distance. And you'd have to do that in a specific time, same like 2-3 miles, and you'd be going out on the field, and you'd be out for like 7 to 10 days. And when you're out in the field, you're sleeping out in wood blocks, in trenches and holes. You're getting probed throughout the night by the enemy. Your drills are getting tested. You're attacking enemy positions, enemy attacking you. So yeah, it's just non-stop. And then at the end of that 6 months, you have a pass-out parade, which is basically like
you graduated.
A graduation, yeah. And at that point, I mean, that was probably like the proudest day of my life at that point, you know what I mean? Because like I was a young 18-year-old little gobby bastard that's just, he's got a chip on his shoulder, from the ends of sat in the other. When you go into there, you are fuck all.
There's no bad
They
man in
break
that,
you
yeah.
down. Like that goes. There's no gobbing off.
Yeah. With the guys that you started with, I'm sure the answer is yes. That didn't graduate or pass, is it passing out of school?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Pass out, yeah.
And what was the difference between you and them? Why did they not make it? And why did you make it through?
Some people just aren't built for it at all. Like the mindset is a massive thing to play because you're just getting probed constantly. You're getting and back then it was like 2007, so there was a bit more. It's not as politically correct back then as it is now. Do you know what I mean? Like there's certain things, you fuck up, you're getting jabbed, you're getting thrashed up and down, you're getting screamed at in the face. Like now, I think they've just gone soft as fuck, and I think the whole world can see that the British Army's on its knees now. But like back then, because we were at war as well, they were just fucking annihilating you.
Mm.
So the lads who couldn't hack it, I've never seen so many blokes cry.
Really?
Break down and cry.
Mm.
Just because like they were just like, I can't do it. And they'd cry all the way back to home. That's there's a thing called DOR.
What's that stand for?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically it was, what did it stand for? I can't remember, but basically they got a 6-week window at the start of training where you can hand in your DOR and that's who you're out of training.
Mm-hmm.
After that 6 weeks window, you're locked in for 4 years.
Damn.
Yeah, because even if after that 6 week window you, I don't know, snap your ankle, they'd keep you in the med centre until the next platoon behind you catches up with where you're at. Mm-hmm. Then they'd chuck you into that
continue
platoon.
with them.
Yeah, so what you'd find is all the riffraff who they'd sort of get rid of them within that first 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, you know, I'm homesick, I'm this, that, and the other. And it pisses me off now because I can go out in a boozer or whatever and, yeah, I used to be in the army, this, that, and the other, and you'd let them speak, and then they would actually say, oh, yeah, I was just in training, because they're them cunts that just did 3-4 weeks and left.
And fucked off.
And then they're preaching to everyone that they were in the army.
Mm-hmm. So you rose to platoon sergeant, is that right?
Yeah.
Can you share a moment where you had to make a really tough decision as platoon sergeant?
I think going through the ranks, you've obviously got private soldier, lance corporal, platoon sergeant, or sergeant. But if you go we call it the A stream way, and you go to senior Brecken, you go and be a platoon sergeant where you control of like 40 to 50 blokes. And up to that point of platoon sergeant, I think commanding blokes was easy, because leadership is easy, because all you've got to do is lead. If you're doing it, everyone else follow. If you're making a shit decision, you're not going to do it yourself, then no one else should be doing it. So how I always thought, if I'm not willing to do it, then no one else is fucking doing it. But then I got to platoon sergeant. Now this is where, obviously I left as a platoon sergeant as well, because it starts becoming quite political. You're behind a desk a lot more. You're controlling lads. And at this point then, I think I got promoted in 2019, 2020, something like that. So you can imagine the caliber of men that are coming through the door at this point. And I think COVID was at the same time. And just fucking so many weak men coming through. And we were over in Cyprus. We was based over there. So people were pulling the COVID card. People saying, you know, my fucking fish has died at home. I need to fly back to the UK. And then I've got the hierarchy then. So I'm officially in like company HQ, you know what I mean? So it's like the sergeant and platoon commander, you run a platoon and you fall directly under the sergeant major and the OC, the officer in command. And then you've got the 2 RC. And that's sort of like your little crew then. Okay. So you're not one of the blokes anymore. Yeah. You're a platoon sergeant. Got you. But I was always like one for the lads, make sure the lads are squared, this, that, and the other. So you got some shit jobs handed down as a platoon sergeant. And at this point, the government made loads of cutbacks.
So what sort of jobs are we talking about here?
Just like, you know, going to... You got to remember, your platoon's probably like 40 strong. It's strong. When you've got blokes going on sick, blokes flying home, blokes on paternity, all the rest of it, you know, you could end up with like 15, 16 blokes. But you've got to go guard 2 separate camps. You've got to fly someone out to... fly a section out to Kuwait. You got to, you know what I mean? There was loads of just little taskings that kept coming through the door. And then when you got the good blokes who don't go sick and they're just getting hounded then. Yeah. Constantly. You're on guard. I was only on guard like 2 days ago. Well, you're on guard again. You know what I mean? So they're getting hammered and hammered and hammered. So as a platoon sergeant then, that was a bit of a shit time, because I'm like, I'd fucking hate me doing that now. These lads are getting absolutely thrashed. And yeah, they're not on tour. None of them, to be fair, the younger lads have even witnessed war, because most of them who've gone have quite fresh face. So it's nothing we haven't done before, but they were getting thrashed. So I was just like, at that point, I was just like, you know what? It's just becoming a bit of a shit show now. I'm just handing out shit taskings left, right and centre. There's no good coming out the back of it. So yeah, it was platoon sergeants just dealing with the shit from higher, because if you don't get the job done, the higher are giving you the shit. What, Sergeant McGraw, why's your platoon not done that? And then when you're giving out the jobs to the lads, like, fucking hell, we're working on the weekend again, or you know what I mean? So Yeah, that was a bit wank.
You've mentioned that the caliber of men coming through in this day and age is weaker in a lot of ways.
Massively.
What do you mean by weaker? What is your definition of weaker? What traits do they not possess that previous generations of soldiers?
Mindset is completely obliterated. So let's take it. When I joined in 2007, I got to battalion 2008. My battalion had just got back from Taliban 9, which is Iraq. And the week they got back, I arrived at battalion in front of a load of blokes that have just done 6-7 months in Iraq. So I'm like, fucking right, crowbag, do this, crowbag, do that, run the shop, you know what I mean? And then when you're going on exercise with them boys, we did demo battalion for 2 years where you're on exercise like 3 weeks out of the month. No one was going sick. No one. If you were sick or you had the shits, you were out on exercise because you've got a platoon. The platoon's got to stay strong because if one goes down, then someone else has got to carry your kit, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So someone else can take the burden of your load. So anyway, we went to this is the difference. We went to my last tour exercise was Batak, which is Kenya. And we went to Kenya and we was there for about three or 4 months. Again, COVID was on. We got out there. We managed to get out in the field. And that's it then. Once you're out in the field, you're out in the field. There's no coming back into camp. You're out. You're living there. You know, you shower with a water bottle. You eat rations and you just crack on. You try to sleep in the day and then we do a lot of the patrol action at night because it's so hot. Oh my God. I started the exercise with about 35 blokes. I finished with 7 blokes. 7. I remember one lad, I won't say no names, but we was just about set off on a night patrol. This guy's been fucking milking it, saying he's got COVID. And he just had a little cough. But that was their get out of jail free card. Start coughing.
Yeah.
I seen section commanders do full screws, and at this point, a full screw's supposed to be like God to these blokes.
Yeah.
And if one of them fuckers are doing it and flying back in, then all your private soldiers are just following suit. Because it's hard. It's a hard exercise. It's not fucking easy. You're in like Archer's Post where it's the heat is just unreal. You know, when you're out there, I found it fucking hard, and I've done a lot of things previous to that. So these young lads, there was one lad in particular. We went out on a night patrol. We did it's like a 13-mile insertion. So you'd set off, you'd do your orders, and probably about 1900 at night we set off on the patrol, and you're going 13 mile through the night with night vision on until you get to the enemy position. Obviously you do stops on the way so the lads can take water on board and whatnot. And one of my lance jacks was like, this lad's keeps going, he looks a bit dodgy. He's in shit state. Like I said, fuck him. He needs to tell him to take more water on this and that, just tell him fucking get a grip.
Suck it up, basically.
Yeah, let's fucking go. Like we got to get to this position by H hour. And he's still going on. 20 minutes later, yeah, he's still in shit state. Went to see him. He was sweating out like fucking. He was just crowing it. But the thing is, before that, he pissed me off. So I gave him the GPMG, which was like the heaviest weapon we got. So I took his ammunition off him, which was like, I think he was going like 600 rounds. Took that, split it between the lads. And he's still in shit state. And I'm thinking, fucking hell. Anyway, it comes over the net. Man down. So I've gone over to him. The guy's fucked, mate, on the floor, on his back. Heat injuries, obviously not been taking on enough water, your basic fucking skills and drills. He starts fucking fitting all his kits off. I've had call in a chopper, get rid of this bloke off the area. And that was him. Job done, like. Next time I actually saw him was in Leek.
Yeah.
So I've gone out for a meal with my missus in his hair. And I was like, fucking hell, you all right now? But they ended up kicking him out the army for that. Just couldn't tack it. But there was look, that's not me just picking on that one bloke, but there was so many incidents like that where these young lads just thought like, I can't tack it. And their straight go-to switch is like, fuck it. I'm going in, I'm going sick. Or mental health. That mental health fucking, the way that these young lads pick up on that now is ridiculous. How they push that over media, the social media, news, this, that and the other about I get it. People who need help with the mental health, go and get it, like 100%. But like, it's a get out of jail free card for like 80% of the people, because these young lads just pulling it left, right, and centre, and they've not been through fuck all.
Yeah.
They're just like, right, how can I get out of this? Oh, mental health. Because you know they'll get sent home and have a week off.
Yeah. I think nowadays with the whole mental health, depression, anxiety thing, if you've got your life in order, say you're making money, you got purpose, you got a family, you got a community, you know, you've got intimate relation, all the rest of that sort of thing, you've got purpose, and then you're suffering from mental health. Yeah, I agree. But if your life's just shit, how about you just fix your fucking life? How about that one? Why don't we start there? And I think it is a get out of jail free card.
90% of the time, the life is shit.
The life is shit.
When you're out there in the field, you could be in any sort of element. You could be out in the fucking Brecon Beacons where there's the range coming in sideways.
You just can't hack it. That's what it is. Just say, I can't hack it. And my also drops out rather than saying mental health. Because there are people who have got all those things in check that are suffering from depression. They've actually got a chemical imbalance, okay? I'll give people a hard time in the past, but the majority of people haven't actually got mental health, or bad mental health, should I say. Their life's just shit. That's what it is. So if you're broke, if you're broke, you can't claim mental health. You're probably pissed off because you haven't got money. If your missus just left you, that's another thing. Do you know what I mean? If you've got no one to talk to, how about you go find someone to talk to, a friendship group, etc., okay? For you, we talk about breaking points, okay? Where's your breaking point? Where have you come close to that breaking point? Have you ever broken?
I've come close to that breaking point so many times.
And what pulled you through?
I just had to keep going. I think with the military, so like you could go back from the start, you know, walking through them gates. When I first ever joined the army, fucking, I'm in the right place here. That was a bit, no, just give it one more day, give it another day. There's times where, you know, you go on your NCO car and you're getting thrashed by the DSR, and I'm just constantly like, no, just keep going. But there was once, and I know if any of the military lads are watching this, I still get ripped into this to this day, like, but I went down on Senior Brecon, which is, you know, it's the last course I've done. It's the last course, you know, any full screw doors, and then that's you sort of like, you're set then, because it's one of the hardest courses in the British Army. And the top third of section commanders go down on Senior Brecon. So I'm moving south at the time, and I'm thinking, I'm on seniors, a bit of a chip on my shoulder, a bit of an ego, thinking, I'm fucking going to go down there, smash it. Did I prep? Did I fuck? Yeah, so I've gone down there, been boozing in Cyprus, thinking I'll breeze it. And I went down there. Bear in mind, this is they only do 3 of these courses a year. And they only send 2 blokes from a battalion down on this course. Battalion's got like 500 lads in there. Obviously, there's not, I think screw-wise, there's probably how many go down? Probably about 10 go on selection. You have a pre-selection, you see. So I did the pre-selection, then 2 out the pre-selection go down on the actual course. So I've got through the pre-selection, obviously gone down on the course. And the first day you do a basic fitness test, an 8 miler. They say, obviously it's up the Brecon Beacons. It is cheeky, but I'm not going to fucking shy away that mile 4 I fucking piled in. And I've never been so ashamed of myself. Like, there was a Marine DS, he was behind me, and they give you strikes on your Bergen when you get, so they call you acting rank when you're there. So it's like, Sergeant McGraw, 1 strike, you're dropping behind the pack. Sergeant McGraw, 2 strikes. And I got at the bottom of the sill and I was fucking blowing, and I thought, I've not prepped here. Boom, 3 strikes, right, I'll shoot you off, day 1. So I've then got fly back to Cyprus, I'm in Brecon, and say, fucking hell, go up to the commanding officer of the battalion. I've just failed the fucking basic fucking start.
How did that go down?
Well, he just shook his head. What more do you need to say? It's a bit like that disappointing mum who found that bag at the end of the bed when I was a kid. So what did I do from there? I fucking destroyed myself. I destroyed myself for a good 6 months, lost loads of weight. And then I went back down there and I finished top 3rd of the actual course.
Nice.
So I smashed it. But I hold my hands up, you know, I want preps. And a lot of the lads who are in the army would be like, fucking crowbag, fucking failed a basic 8 miler. But I went back down there, did it again, and I smashed it. But the thing is, this is where a lot of people go wrong. They're scared to fail. Like, it's wank when you fail. It is shit. But like, unless you're going to, this is, a lot of people steer clear of that course. A lot of people, like you'll see in they call like a B stream, they can either go like do mortars or Jav. Stuff like, you can still get promoted outside of doing that A stream.
That's probably
course.
the most challenging route you can take.
That's fucking horrendous. That course is horrendous. And this is a thing about the army lads, especially the lads that have done stuff. They won't ever say it's fucking hot. Like they'll never say fucking hot. They're like, yeah, got through it. It's like it's nothing. But now me coming away from it, like looking back, I'm thinking that was fucking outrageous. Like just 4 months down there. 2 of the months are like live fire tactical training. So you're conducting big live fire exercises. But like the tactics part, oh my God. You're just up from like, you'll get there Sunday afternoon and you're delivering your orders, but you're in a platoon commander's role or a platoon sergeant role with 30 other lads who are all getting DS'd. And you'll get there Sunday and you're awake till Friday. You are awake. So you'll do like
I've done that a few times. That was assisted.
Yeah. But like, so you'll do.
wasn't in the same conditions.
Yeah. But you'll do an attack on a position.
Yeah.
Once you get to that position, pissing down the rain or whatever, you're digging holes. Then right, appointment change, fucking you're platoon sergeant now, you're fucking this, you're that. So everyone's got to keep grafting for each other. But like by the time it gets to like the next week and you're still awake, blokes have fallen asleep standing up, fucking, oh my God, it's horrendous. And you're just constantly going and going and going. And that there, the resilience of that, the blokes on there who've done that course know what I'm on about. It's fucking rough. It is rough.
So you went back and completed that. I want to dig into, I think, the big topic. Obviously, you were in Afghan during the war, okay? And this is a touchy subject, especially as the years have gone on. What are your thoughts on the reasons behind why the British Army were in Afghan? Did they have a place there to be there in the first place? And the way that they conducted that whole operation, what are your thoughts on that now that you look back?
So when I got deployed to Afghan, I'll be honest, I was quite, what's the word? I didn't really have a clue what was going on at that age. I was quite ignorant, let's say. Like what the fuck I was actually doing. I was just in the army. That was my job. I'm going there. You know, I didn't know the bigger picture. Obviously, as growth, as you get older, you know, and you start realising what the world's actually about, you start to look back and think, fucking hell, that was mad. But like, I was 20 years old when I went there the first time. And when I got there, I actually felt on that first tour, we did 7 months there, the first one. I felt like I was making a difference to where I was, you know, and my thoughts on whilst we were there now looking back, obviously, there was a lot of terrorism going on at that time. And I think the reason why the spin they put on it was like, you know, we're going over there to keep terrorists at bay to stop them coming to our shores. Now, obviously, that's changed now, and we'll probably get onto that later on in the podcast. But at the time, whilst I was there, we was keeping the enemy at bay, which we was fighting the Taliban. I was B Company at the time. And we was fighting them on a daily basis. We had like 3 platoons there who were all doing the bit. We was all guarding main supply routes. We was in like a forward operating base and little patrol bases. And then we was just conducting like, you know, probably about 3 patrols a day where we was go out into different places, different villages, certain operations. There was all sorts coming in what we had to do. But we was all young lads, you know, and I stayed in a patrol base, which was predominantly like, I think there was like 10 of us and there was like 10 Afghan army. So we was living with them for like 4 or 5 months. And, you know, you was on bottled water, basically, it's like warm water. There's no fridges or nothing like that. Rations, shitting in a bag. It's quite rough conditions, like, but at that time then when I was going out and was speaking to the locals, and the locals saying, the Taliban are terrorizing us. They're making us grow poppy. Because the poppy fields out there are outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
I think like 90% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan. But you can see the Taliban were causing a lot of uproar where we was going, and them people who were there actually thought we was there. We were helping. You had a lot of people who didn't like us being there, a lot of people who did like us being there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very like split. It was like a split.
It was mixed,
it was like, am I doing a lot of it? Like personally, like I used to get my mum like send like colouring books out and stuff like that. And when we go on a patrol, you're giving it to the kids because they had fuck all there. So I felt like in certain ways I was making a difference. On a bigger picture, we were making a difference. We was training up the Afghan army, the Afghan National Police. We was building these checkpoints all around the country in different places. We were smashing the Taliban in certain places. And we were making a sort of difference, but that come at a big cost, and a lot of soldiers died, and more so, a lot of soldiers got injured, what you didn't really hear about on the news. That was the first tour. Then the second tour came when I was about 23, 24. After the first one, a lot of lads got out. We lost a lad, Gareth Ballingham. He got shot in the face. He was C Company, I think. So when we got back from there, a lot of the lads from battalion got out, moved on, and we went again the second time. When we went the second time, it was a very, very different tour. This was Herrick 19. It was like the last one. And we was one of the last infantry units on the front line. Everyone else pulling back. So we're pulling back slowly. But we was doing we was in a FOB, forward operating base. And we weren't doing nowhere near many patrols. I think we was doing like probably 3 or 4 a week. And
what was your thoughts at that time in regards to your reasons for being there?
So this is what I'm going to get on to now. So we was doing less patrols. The vehicle-borne IEDs, i.e. suicide bombers in a car, the threat from them went up. There was getting a lot of suicide bombers as we was withdrawing. And at that point then, as everyone's pulling back from these checkpoints, the Afghan army have got hold of, there's just something wasn't right about it, because we were pulling out, they're getting left to these checkpoints with no real support from any British army, and the Taliban aren't no force to be like,
what is it like
messed with, like
fighting the Taliban? Because I think people have a lot of misconceptions about guys in mountains, with turbans on, that they're not very sophisticated, and
the Taliban are very, very clever, and don't let the dress fool you, because I've been in positions. There was one story. We went out to recover a jackal. A jackal's like a vehicle, like an open top vehicle with a mounted gun on the top, and it was the Marines, and there's a couple of 2-2 lads there, 2-2s SAS lads, and they were on an op. It was a couple of K away from where we were, and they've come in from Bastion, which is the main camp. They've gone and done this op, and we've basically been tasked, because we was armoured infantry at the time, to go up with the free vehicles, free warriors, like mini tanks, to go up and get this jackal and take it back to camp. Bit like a fucking RAC. So anyway, a bit of a recovery tasking. So we've gone up, and we're pretty light. We've took not much rations. We're just out for a quick patrol, 24-hour job. So we've got to there, and as we've got there, obviously everyone's a bit when you see special forces and you're around them, everyone gets a bit like they're looking at fucking God, you know what I mean? So the platoon commander's all like, oh my God, he's special forces, and he gets speaking to their OC. Well, anyway, he gets speaking to their OC, and the Taliban fire an RPG towards where the Liga is, where all these vehicles are. So everyone's getting like R8 then. And the platoon commander comes back and says, right, we're getting attached to these. We're going to go into this village. So we ended up like ditching all our kit, crammed in like, bear in mind these warriors, with all your kit on, you could probably get like 4 or 5 blokes in the back, tops. We've got fucking like 10 lads who just barged all these Marines in, and we'd all just cooped in the back of this vehicle. And we're going in, they're firing us in to this village. We've got out the village, and then we've gone down, and we're next to this village, and the village has gone dead quiet. That's when you know it's going to kick off. So we're at the side of this village now. And then a Taliban lad comes around the corner, starts firing. One of the Marines engaged, dropped him. And then we sort of like extracted back up to a compound roof, and it was like a civilian compound. And they sort of like pay the civilian, so they chuck him some money and say, right, we're staying here for a bit. So chuck him on top of this roof now. And I've looked behind, and we have an icon where basically the interpreter can hear what the Taliban are saying. The Taliban are on the high ground. This is how clever they are. They've come over the icon and they said, right, flood the fields. So they've flooded the farmers' fields where the free warriors are on.
Mm.
And I've looked behind me, and the warrior's like 36 ton, as high as their ceiling. And it's sunk all the way down, and all it can move is a turret. So from an op of us going to recover a jackal turned into 4 days being stuck there with no rations, no water. We was drinking the Afghan irrigation water through a filtered water bottle. Borrowing what rations we could from the lads that were there. The Marine lads were absolutely fuming because they were stuck there with us for 4 days. But the Taliban were hounding us from the high ground. They were just sending them in waves all through the night, all through the day. And they wanted to actually take the tanks off us. So they were just coming non-stop. That was when I saw how clever these were. Like, to see it was like a company's worth of blokes there, and they flooded a fucking farmer's field, sunk the tanks, and they were sending waves of blokes down. Like, we had the upper ranks. Obviously, we've got air support, and we have night capabilities, which they didn't have. So we sort of smashed them in the night with the night capabilities, but be under no illusion like that. Them guys, there's been numerous times where they've caught people I know in ambushes, and they've set certain things up. They use the tunnels as little rat races because that's their terrain. They know how to use it.
Yeah.
So they're very, very clever in that way. Plus, what you got to remember is that country has just been at war
forever.
Fucking years. Like, I think before us, Russia were there for like 20 years or something. So they've just grown up around war. It's normal to them. Like, death's normal. I think I remember, someone lost a kid out there, and they were just like, what, straight away, what you're compensating us? Not even, you know what I mean? They're just bothered about the money, like what you're giving us.
How would you beat an enemy that doesn't fear death? As a people, as a in terms of actually overcoming that and defeating an army, because for them there's no defeat. And that's one thing I don't think that the British and the US government realized when they went in there. And then, from what I know, they left with their tail in between the legs.
Yeah.
And the way that, I think you've described it in the past, the way when they pulled you guys out, that was an eye-opening moment for you. Can you explain a little bit to the people watching and listening what that was like?
I think now especially, I think remember on the news, it was like 2-3 years ago when the actual Americans thought, what?
Fought this.
We're out.
Yeah. So
at that point then, that sort of hit over me, like.
In what way?
Because I'm just like, fucking hell, like, especially let's just take it back slightly. So on my second tour, we got hit by a big vehicle-borne IED, and 6 of my mates got blown up. One of my mates got killed, Ian Fisher. And he had two young lads back to his missus and his 2 young lads. And at the time, you're like, fucking, you think it's bad then you get home and you see his wife and his kids. That was when I was 23. Now at fucking 35, looking back, when I've got my own wife and my own 2 kids, like, what the fuck is she, like, when she sees all them troops pulling out of Afghan 2 years ago, when it's supposed to be to keep the terrorists at bay from our shores. Well, if it was that much of a fucking big problem, like, why did we pull out? because the Taliban have now got hold of that country. So was it really about terrorism?
What was it about, in your opinion?
I don't fucking know anymore. I don't know. But I know a lot of people have fucking died.
Mm.
You know, Afghanis, civilians, British Army lads have got fucking, you know, one fucking arm, who've had both the triple amputees and got no legs and this,
Destroy
that, and
the
the other.
country.
Yeah, just fucking absolute terror, just reigned through everything about it. But what was it all for? Now looking back, why are people now sitting at home without their loved ones, and the Taliban have got all of the country? Was it for terrorism? Because if it was for terrorism that much, why the fuck aren't we still there? You get what I'm saying? Why has everyone just pulled out now?
In terms of what you believe, your opinion on the British government as a whole, how has that changed over the years? From when you first went into the army, feeling like you're making a difference, to the point that you're at now, with a deeper understanding of the world and how it all works. What do you make of the British government as a institution? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that's changed over the last probably couple of years when you're looking at other areas of the world, other parts of the world, other regions, and seeing how they operate. How do they now compare to what the British government are? And what do you feel like the British government really stand for?
The British government are wankers. And that's hand on heart. Like, there's so many fuck-ups on their behalf. And who pays the price? It's always a little man. We're all just fucking numbers. Even if you go back to, like, you know, Tony Blair and the Bush situation, invading Iraq for weapons of mass destruction and all that fucking another fuck up, another war where really Blair should be locked up. You know, like, why the fuck is he still roaming around? Again, more innocent lives, more fucking soldiers dead. The government have got a way of spinning things, especially with the media, especially to the public, where I think they like turning people against each other, which then gives them the upper hand to say, right, you know what, we'll step in now, we'll do this. I think they're playing everyone for puppets.
Yeah, when they caused the issue in the first place. Yeah.
And this is why we see such a big divide in this day and age, because they're turning everyone against each other just by what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think they're absolutely fucking shocking.
Yeah, it's shameful. And the thing is, people talk about freedom and American, you know, the UK being a society where you're free and you know you can do whatever you want. Can you fuck? Can you fuck?
You're not free.
No, you're not.
I think if more than anything, I think we're fucking slaves now, to be honest with you. Like, you know, there's people out there. You can have you and your wife working, and you've still got to do something extra just to make the ends meet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people are working just to cover the bills.
For sure.
And, you know, they just talk absolute shit. And then when a war comes over, it's just so, I don't believe anything they say. Not one thing. Especially after the shit I've seen over there.
Yeah.
And they're just the way we've just handed it back and all the lives lost and not one fuck's given. You know, and even like fucking, was it Rishi Sunak the other week? Was it last year? Just didn't even go to a remembrance thing and just show his respect. Like, remembrance isn't just it's for everyone. Do you know what I mean? That's been affected by war. And I just feel like they just don't give a fuck. They
don't. I want to quickly bridge into what your life was like after the army. We've got 22 minutes left. So I quickly want to bridge into what life was like after the army, how you adapted, and then obviously with the business that you started, with Recon Properties and A to B Flooring, how that all came about and what are your plans for that for the future?
Yeah, so I didn't actually ever intend to going into property. I think when I got my first property, it was down Clayton. I think it was like, you know, got married, let's get the house. And then I thought, fucking hell, is this it? Like, we're just going to wait now and pay this mortgage off. And then that was when I just went full on like, fuck this. I'm not doing this whole mortgage or rush as fast as you can to pay a mortgage off because it's just a load of bollocks. So, you know, we did the house up, sold it, made some money, and then we thought, right, we can do something here by doing this. And especially on a residential property, you can sort of make money off it tax-free because you're living in it. You can't pay, I'm not sure now because obviously the government changing things constantly, but at that time then, you didn't have to pay nothing on the gain you made. So we sort of did that, and then I sort of like on the side of my military career, I sort of just get buying a house, doing it up, either selling it or refinancing it, whilst I was living in military accommodation. So it worked well. And then it got to a point where I thought, right, this is like double my military wage now. So I felt like comfortable in leaving the military. And it was the time I got back from Kenya. I did Kuwait for a couple of months, and then I come back, went Kenya, and because that was 3 or 4 months. And my lad, I just remember I come back up the drive, and my eldest lad was just a bit standoffish. He was about 4 or 5 at the time.
Why was that?
Because I've been away so much. And at that point then I thought, as well as dealing with a load of fucking weak-minded individuals, these young lads that are coming through, being a bit of a pen pusher now as a platoon sergeant, already completed what I've wanted to complete, and I've got this portfolio now building up, and my lad didn't want to come to me. I thought, now's the time to leave. So I pulled the pin, left the army, and then went at property full-time.
Okay. What was that learning curve like?
Leaving, or
the transition, and then the learning curve in terms of learning about property, building that side of things.
So I'm still going through it. So I didn't really give me time to think, to be honest, because what I tend to do is I left that. The military was quite full on. There was always something else to focus on, something else to keep you driven, motivated. So what I did is I jumped out and just jumped straight into buying a plot of land and built a new house. Simultaneously to that, because I felt my head not going, but my head I wasn't a soldier anymore. So I'm trying to like transition back to being a civvy and just dealing with normal people who can't make timings, tradesmen who are gobbing off. And I'm not used to that, because I'm used to like leading. When I say something, you fucking shut up and do it. So I obviously jumped on the new bill, but simultaneously to that, I just did an Ironman just to keep me head strong. But that probably was a bit fucking overkill, to be honest. So at the back end of last year, fucking hell, I was in a bad place, really.
Remember,
yeah. It was too much to take on. But we got through it. And that now, I sort of went into property full time, but I found it worked better part time. Like with the property full time, because I've not got a massive portfolio, it's like 1.8 mil, but people...
You say that, but what you've got to remember, there are a lot of people who would look at that and think, that's exactly where I want to be. Now, for those people, what advice would you give who are looking to get into property, investing in property? What sort of advice would you get? And what things would you advise them to avoid?
Don't rush. Don't rush it. Make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you know what you're doing with your numbers. A lot of people just think, buy a house at the price it's on for, do it up, and then that's it. Then you got like fucking 30, 40 grand trapped in an house and you can't pull it out. Whereas, you need to be aiming to buy a house initially for 20% below market value. Do your due diligence now, how much is it going to cost for the refurb? What's it going to be worth on the back end? How much money can you pull back out on a refinance so you can recycle your cash and go again? The better you get at that, just the basics, the better the more you'll be able to.
Is that something you kind of help people with, or what,
yeah?
What is your business model?
So that was like the main reason I'd launched a Recon Properties, because I like to showcase. Yeah, I wonder who come up with that. So I like to showcase the work I've done, but I want to help people out. In essence, I'm not really selling any training courses or anything like that. But when people reach out, I like to help them out. Point them in the right direction, because a lot of people now, without mentioning names, because there's some big names out there which are selling ridiculous courses for 10K upwards. But there's like your little fries, people who are just getting into it, who've got a job and they just want to do it part time. Just reach out, and if you need anything answering, I'll answer it. Because them initial stages can set you up for real success, but it is a long-winded game, and there's a lot. What I did is tried to jump into it full time, and found out that I'm sat on my hands a lot because I had nothing to go at, which is why I started the A to B flooring with a good friend of mine, because that keeps me active on a daily. I have to be hands-on. As much as I'd love to just sit there, I can't do it. So like I'm hands-on with that, helping out with that, and then the property thing sort of like, it comes in like a 3-4 month cycle. So you get one, you'll be dead busy, then that'll die off, refinance that, and then you'll go again. so on and so forth. But if you're starting out, just do your due diligence properly. Don't spend no mad money on stupid courses. Pick the brains of people who know what they're on about. The internet's brilliant for finding stuff out. It's all on there. It's all free. Everything's free. You've just got to know how to do it. But yeah, because there's times, even this year myself, I've had 2 properties fall out of bed. That set me back a bit. And it's probably cost me $6,000 just on like legals, surveyors going around, stuff like that. And it's a waste. So you constantly going to waste money. You need to factor that in when you're going forward, that, the numbers aren't always going to be what you think.
Do you think there's a false sense of ease when it comes to expanding a property portfolio and getting into property? Do people make it look like, especially in the online space, that it's easier than what it is? Because 10K months are the typical thing that's pushed within my industry. Do you think that's the case? Do you think people are just profiting from naive people who've just got into the space?
Definitely. I think a big one at the minute is the sourcing. I was dabbling with the sourcing for a bit whilst I was sat in the office. We got a couple of good deals, but what I find people are doing now is they're leveraging. They're doing the sourcing, but with the hybrid valuation.
What does that mean for people who don't understand?
So
that?
A hybrid valuation is basically a rental valuation. So say you've got a house for 150 grand, you turn it into a 5-bed HMO, that'll go off the rental figures and the house will be worth 280 grand. But a bricks and mortar value is still 150 grand. So in 7 years' time, when that house is absolutely fucking battered,
you lose money on it.
No, you've got refurb that house. And if you haven't got the money refurb, or if the interest rates change and that goes up, but then at the same time, if you want to sell that house prices in essence double every 10 years. So if you've got 150 grand, 10 years it'll be 300 grand. But if you've got 150 grand house and there's 280 grand mortgage on it, 10 years time, you know what I mean? You're just about getting your money back.
Yeah.
If you were to sell it. But no one else is going to buy that house what you've had it mortgaged on. So that's a lot of things. Sources are selling like the hybrid model. And then there's the sources that have been sold the dream. So they'll go on these courses. All you got to do is get a house, put this refurb cost in, and people are sending out stupid deals. Someone who's never even picked up an army, like sending out, here's an house, 150 grand, it's battered. I'm like, yeah, that's a decent house. How much refurb? Yeah, 5 grand, mate. I'm like, 5 grand? You can't even get a fucking bathroom sink for 5 grand. So like people, like, they just fluff the numbers up. And that's why I sort of like, I wouldn't say I've stepped back from the socials, but like I'm trying to not come across the same as these guys. That's what I felt like I was getting sort of like roped into being like them, and I don't want to come across like that. So I sort of stepped back from doing that. I sort of just want to showcase the work instead. There's a lot of people in the space. There's one guy who I'll definitely name, that's ALS Properties, Jamal. He is just fucking brilliant. Like everything he does is exactly what like I aim to be like. Because he just showcases his work does the talking for him. It's not one of these guys who has to go around like talking sharp like the rest of them. So that's why I'm sort of like trying to pull back and then just let the work speak for itself.
Got you. And where do you see Recon Properties in the next, let's say 5 years, and ATB Flooring in 5 years? Where do you want that to be? What's the vision?
So Recon Properties, we're slowly growing. So the aim was this year to get at least 3 properties. We've got 1. Not the end of the world. Our first, 8 months in business. Next year we need to push, so we'll up it then, we'll get 3. And then so on. So each year we'll up the ante, whether that's going to be like a new build, which I'm trying to focus on the new builds now, because with the government changing the legislation, they want to push for these 300,000 new houses that they've put out there. So I think sourcing land is probably where it's at the minute. You get a plot of land, I think they're going to push for the new developments to get through planning a lot easier than what it was previously. But yeah, just gaining as many assets as possible, pushing forward. And then that's sort of just like how I look at it, as I'm not after a short-term raise off the property. It's a long-term gain. I'm gaining assets within the company.
That you build, and anything you build, and you want that thing to last, it does take a long time. You can't do it overnight. I think in this day and age, where there's instant gratification, you can get on Amazon and get something delivered the same day in some cases. whatever it might be, you can get food dropped off like that. People think that business works in the same way, and it's pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed.
Mm-hmm.
But even from my experience, I've been in that position where I've worked with people and they're pushing, make the sale, make the sale, make the sale. And sometimes making the sale isn't the best thing to do. If you want something to last, your reputation is key. And you talk about ALS properties.
Yeah.
He's obviously got a good reputation.
Yeah.
You know, if people like you are coming out and speaking on that front, and that's exactly where I suppose you'd want to be, instead of being this money grabbing, here's a course, I can sort it for you, blah, blah, blah. Instead of being that sort of individual, I think it's better to take your time, like you said, and build something slowly, because it will last that way.
100%. And that's how I want to cut that. That's why I was new to it last year, as you know, the whole business side, launching the Instagram. And, I got sucked in and I'm like, right, video, which was good. A lot of people took it and it's built me up, but it just wasn't me. Whereas now going forward, now I know I'm going to skin it. I know I'm gaining assets along the way, and I want to help people out going forward. So like I say, anyone wants any help with property, point us in the right direction. I've got plenty of links, trades, brokers, anything, just to reach out to Recon Properties. And then as for the A to B flooring stuff, that's something we're really going to push as well. We're looking to open a shop next year. And I'm excited for that, to be fair. So I've got two solid businesses there. Obviously, the flooring's a lot more hands-on. I think I'll be there more of a daily approach. The property stuff can be, but just depends what time of the cycle I'm on. So if it's like, I know I'm getting close to one going through now over the line, so I'm going to have like 8 weeks of full throttle on that. But again, you just delegate. It's the same as the army. Seems like, right, but this time I give the shit jobs out without fucking feeling bad about it.
Sure. I mean, I think from where you've come from, like you said, humble beginnings, living above a hairdresser's, to now, a family of your own, 2 sons, missus, 2 businesses, a portfolio of properties. For anyone who is feeling stuck or is feeling like their circumstances don't favour them and they do want to push on and achieve big things, what's the one piece of advice you can give that person?
I think just steer clear from anyone who gives you advice who hasn't done fuck all. That's the biggest thing, because there's so many people who sit there on their high horse giving out advice, telling people what to do, and then you turn around and look at their resume, look what they've achieved, and they've done absolutely fuck all. So how can you give anyone advice? So anyone coming up and coming, young lads, old lads, whatever, just find something that you want to do that you're passionate about and just fucking go for it. Just go for it full throttle. And one thing I did last year when I felt like, I was a bit lost, I come out the army, I was chasing a property thing, I just fucking went teetotal. I like a drink, all squaddies do, but I just went completely teetotal. I think it's like Christmas. That's it now, I'm having no ale. And I did 6 months, no ale, training hard, clarity, plan my goals out, plan my weeks out, and I fucking achieved a lot in them 6 months. Fucking unmatched. The clarity is unmatched.
And do you believe that holds the majority of young men back nowadays? Because we do live in a culture where it's kind of, I won't say it's glamorized, but it's a part of the culture.
Yeah. Partying it draws you back. And I think if you haven't achieved your goals, then you need to reassess your situation.
What the fuck are you celebrating?
Nothing's going to change if you keep doing the same shit week in, week out. Don't get me wrong. I get pulled in and go out having a drink and let my hair down, whatever. But you've got to realise yourself. If you're not in the position you want to be in, you've got to fucking rein it in.
Great. Where can people find you on your socials?
So I'm on Recon Properties on Instagram, all social media platforms. And they've got A to B flooring if you're into flooring. But the main platform to get hold of me, especially if you're after anything to do with property or anything, to be fair, just reach out on Recon Properties.
Perfect. So that concludes our first ever episode of Touching Base. Like always, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you next time. Peace.